as simple as
Fucking
possible.
all gas, no
We
brakes.
break everything, so the less moving parts we have, the better, which is why we switched to fractal and like no more unplugged wires on my special Skyverb that I bought on something for $1 trillion. It's just like, let it rip and let us get back to business.
Man, I love that idea. A lot of people in the comments are like, oh, it's not real amps, but if you tour full-time, you'll realize quickly how you want to eliminate any problems. I don't know if you remember, you once took out my band Il Patriot, and Ryan Rado, who has Tourette's syndrome, had a tick with a cup of water on stage our first day of tour and fried my whole board.
Yep.
It sucked so bad. So like that whole tour, I was like having to borrow shit and like trying to make it work, and it was just a nightmare.
I mean, and that's it. And like I think there's gear heads, and then there's like music heads, and I'm more like music, like as many moving parts as I can eliminate, so I don't have to realize that we're about to hit a clean part, but I happen to be headbanging over by Chris, and I have to run back and do an A/B switch. Like, tone is not important. Like energy and like things that kind of move the needle with a room, to me, is important. And then obviously we have people like Diego who are tone geeks, and so when I can get someone to use something that's efficient for my workflow but actually sounds amazing is kind of the perfect marriage.
I love that idea because it's your job to come in here and riff. You got an incredible front of house team that's going to make it sound good. Yeah. You got Diego who's going to dial it in so it does sound good. So
the only thing I do manually is the wah, just because I feel like that's actually a performed like feel. But as soon as, if something's going to click and I'm falling behind a drum riser or up front somewhere, and all of a sudden we're in quarter note delays on clean, and then we're back to breakdown distortion wherever I am on stage, like it frees me up to do what I do, which is express myself the way I want to on stage without having to worry about the technical side.
Jazz
so
hands.
That's a win for me. Yeah, I just don't have to do anything for the most part. No. Yeah, it's literally stock. Like a lot of people like chew through, like, did you hear what Duncan just dropped? Or I had this hand wound guy from the Midwest that's smoking everybody, and I'm just like, dude, it sounds so good already. Like gear infatuation is super cool because it's like a passion or a hobby, but it's not necessary for me to do my job. Also, so it's like once I have what works,
it's relative.
I just want to keep it,
People get so precious about that shit, and it's relative. Not to mention the fact that, especially if you're running this all through Axe Effects, the tone shaping possibilities are kind of limitless.
That's pretty much what we do. I mean, if we have a new pickup, then we'll just EQ match in here. And also, it's like, if he's using that for specific songs, we already have per song patches that we'll just dial in for that song anyways.
Right.
It's not like he's running just through the same amp on every song. It's like we have infinite amps in here.
Yeah, and you could set a bass marker tone and put a Stratocaster, a Squire, and like an acoustic is exaggerative, but you could put anything through it, and then all the scenes change, but the output is uniform and the tones are uniform. If you have someone who's capable of actually understanding how it works and achieving that.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, let's be honest and slay me in the comments if you want, but Underoath's tone hasn't really, at least for heavy stuff, hasn't changed a ton. I mean, it's been an awesome distortion for every record. It's not like you guys have completely shifted gears and gone left field. And
I think there's a lot of people that talk about like, oh, this 5K knock in the bottom end, and I'm just like, dude, that's for someone else. Like,
the low
let me just headbang and like let's have fun, you know. And not to degrade it, it's just not my skill set or even my passion. Like, I hate buying guitars because that means I have to spend my money. Like, I don't collect guitars. I don't have like special guitars at home. I have a studio.
Do you have some nice guitars?
Yeah, well, in our studio, obviously, I have like an active 5-string bass, an active 4-string bass, a Les Paul, really nice Telly. So we have certain pieces, but we record all of our baritone stuff with this. Like, this is our studio rig and our tour rig, as long as I don't break it. You know, and I honestly like that. Like, I like the punk element of like, man, like when you really dug in there for that last breakdown, it was like
out of tune.
It was floating in tune to where it widened it, but you could tell it's like, thank God this song's over. I love that.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. Yeah.
That's like punk as hell.
It is.
It's
really
just
is.
like old shit rather than like everyone's on Evertunes, everyone's on this and that. It's like, like be a rock band. As we are about to talk about how we use computers now. So the duality.
Punk rock is that,
I mean, I don't know what everyone wants to hear, but that's my philosophy. Like, use computers to get you back to being more rock and roll than you were when you had to think about all the cool rock and roll pedals.
Well, it makes sense if you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. But when I say it out loud, I sound like an idiot.